Welcome back to Introduction to Engineering Design. Today we're going to work on Activity 4.4a and we're going to basically start designing a box for Automata project. So what I have here is the module for this particular activity, and you'll see that there's a drawing. This is what's called an exploded view drawing. It just basically pulls a model apart or an assembly apart for you to look at the different components. So I have some components listed here and I call them the Automata Box top, box end, box front, supports, bushing, and handle. We're going to focus on the top, end, and front in modeling those, and we'll model those in that order. So there's two ways you can actually look at this document. Is you can look at it online on the web page. Another probably more useful way or easier way is to go to the resources page and to select this Design a Box 2018 document. So I have that document opened up over here, and as always we're going to do a little bit of close reading here and see exactly what we want to get done. So this basically just talks about the assembly drawing here that is an exploded view with a bill of materials, the list of materials right there. And what you'll see from the bill of materials is I've got the front two pieces are the same, the front and the back are the same for two pieces. The two sides are the same, and then the top is an individual. So I really have three parts to model to put this together. So we're going to go through this fairly methodically so you can learn how to do that. You'll also notice that these parts interlock with finger joints along the seam, and that makes it very strong and also makes it very straight. We're going to cut these on the laser cutter. So it'll be a fun project and something nice to have when you're done. It'll really show off your design skills for your Automata project later on. So let's get started. The first thing that I want to call attention to here is this instruction point number 2, and I want you to make a folder on your class drive for your hour and make that folder entitled Automata. And what that will allow you to do is to put all of your parts, drawings, and assemblies into that one folder. Don't distribute them around on your desktop in different places. Later on, you will have a hard time getting the model to work, the assembly to work, and the drawings to work if they're not pretty centralized in a place where you can find them. Additionally, once you put them in this folder, don't move them. It becomes very difficult to reassociate all of the files, or confusing for students to do that. So the easiest defense is build a folder structure before you start the project, stick to that folder structure, and don't alter that throughout the project. So let's start making this box top. And the first thing I want to tell you is this plywood is Baltic birch plywood. It is 3 millimeters thick. So as you look at this, we're going to discuss some symmetry. We look at this box top, and this thing is designed with quite a bit of symmetry in mind. If I split it right down the middle at the 3-inch line, you can see that it really looks identical from left to right. You can also see that if I split it at the 1.5-inch line up vertically, it looks very similar from the top to the bottom of this drawing. So we're going to take advantage of some of that symmetry when we do our design. We're going to use a combination of additive and subtractive modeling techniques that you've learned. So let's start out right away, and I'm going to come over to SOLIDWORKS and I'm going to start a new sketch. And to do that, I'm going to go File, New, Part. You may see the Advanced tab. You should use the Westwood template for the part. From this, I want to start a sketch. So I'm going to go to my Sketch button, my Sketch tab, and select that. I'm going to choose my front plane, again hovering over the word front by the end of the word and clicking as the highlighted border turns orange. So now I want to use something that gives me symmetry, and I'm going to use a rectangular tool, and I'm going to use the center rectangle tool where my cursor is flashing. You can see that it takes 2 clicks to drop it. One drops it, the second one pulls it out. So I'll choose that center rectangle. I'll hover over and get a coincident glyph over the origin. Click once, pull it out, completely unconcerned with the size, because I'm going to dimension this to the drawing size, which is 6 inches by 4 inches. Smart Dimension tool, from my left side to the right side, I want that to be 6 inches. Again, I want to do the biggest dimension first whenever I can. Top to bottom, 4 inches. I'm fully defined, so I can extrude this out. So I'm going to exit my sketch. My sketch is still selected, and I'm going to go to Features, Extruded Boss Base. Now, instead of doing a conversion to millimeters or to inches, because that's what I'm doing my model in, I'm just going to type in the millimeter number. So I'm going to go 3 space mm. When I do that, if I tab through, you'll see that SolidWorks does the conversion for me. So really a slick detail. I can enter in millimeters, no problem. I'm just going to go blind. It doesn't really matter the direction. And I'm going to accept it. So now what I have is I have a solid model of a flat plate piece of plywood. So that's pretty simple. So now let's go back to our drawing that we're looking at. And you'll see that I've got the outline of this plate, and now I need to do a series of cuts. So I'm going to focus along this left-hand side here, and I'm going to do half of the cuts, the half that go from the middle up to the top. So you'll notice that these cuts, they're spaced out here, and you can see that they go from the middle point. There's my 2.5 inches. There's my 2-inch midpoint right there. And you'll notice that I go a ½ an inch above that. And then I go 1 inch and another ½ inch. So let's look at how we can do that. I'm going to start a sketch, but I'm going to tell it I want an extruded cut. SolidWorks asks me on what surface, so I'll go ahead and select the surface of my model. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and start to draw some corner rectangles. So I want to change this shape into a corner rectangle. And I'm going to get a coincident glyph in the upper left corner and drop it down. I'll draw a second rectangle that's at my midpoint. Now a couple things. This middle cutout is associated with the midpoint of my model, which happens to be the origin. So as we talked about in class the other day, I'm going to add an association. I'm going to click on this midpoint symbol, hold my control key down, click on my origin, and I want those two to be horizontal. Put that box, the middle of it, even with the middle of the model. So that's pretty slick. I want this cutout to be 1 inch wide. And I want the distance between this cutout line and my next one another 1 inches. Now the depth of this needs to accommodate the thickness of my material for my tongue and groove. So I want to pull this out, and I'm again going to type in 3 space mm. And again, I'm going to go 3 space mm. My model now is fully defined, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I want to go through all, and accept it. So now you'll see I've got that first notch cut out, and it's starting to look a little bit like my part. So let's do my next cut along the top surface. So I'm going to do another extruded cut along my top surface. And I want to choose my corner rectangle again. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start along this line, pull my rectangle out and past, and then I'm going to do another rectangle a little further in. So you'll see both of these are coincident right up here where I'm zooming in with that line. Okay, so let's do a dimension here. And the dimension that I'm going to do is I am going to make this corner between these two 1 inch. I'm going to make the width of this, again, 1 inch. And now I'm going to tell it to dimension from this left or right-hand edge of this slot to my origin 1/2 inch. I've got to give some depth to this, 3 millimeters again. And 3 millimeters. Now I could do collinearity here, but we haven't talked about that very much in class. Very close to fully defined. The last thing that I'm going to do is, I don't need this cut to go past this line ever. So I'm going to do an association. So I'm going to select the line. Notice I have no tools active. Select the line, hold my control key down, select the left-hand edge of that model, and I'm going to make that collinear. Now what you're going to see is my sketch is fully defined. Let's exit the sketch. Go ahead and cut through all. Accept it. Oh, look at that. Now I have pretty much 1/4 of my model cut out for this top view. So I've got that picture right there. As I scroll back up, you can see that it looks like this portion of the model right there, 1/4. So because I've got a symmetrical relationship, I can do a couple of mirrors. And what a mirror does in the feature is a mirror asks you, how would you like to reflect an item, a feature? So in what plane? So the first plane that I'm going to reflect this on is, I'm going to go ahead and take everything that's on this left-hand side, this left half of the model right here, and I'm going to reflect it to the other side. So to do that, you want to choose the mirror feature. Now I can do this in a sketch too. It's a little bit more less robust if you do it in a sketch than when you do it in a feature. And I choose the mirror button, and you're going to notice it asks me a couple things. What mirror plane? So a really handy trick, because I know I've got a plane that runs through the middle of this, because of the way I started it, is I just hover over and I can see planes. And there it is, my right plane. So I want to choose my right plane. And then the features that I want to mirror, I can just come right over here and start clicking. So if I choose that cut extrude, you see it previews on the right hand side. And my second cut extrude previews on the right hand side. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to go for full preview and accept it. Oh, look at that. Now I've got about half my model done. Now here's the really cool thing. I can mirror a mirror. So I'm going to have this mirror selected because that's what I want to mirror. Click on my mirror button again. But this time, the plane that I want to use runs right through the middle of the part. And if I select that, I have now mirrored top to bottom. And what I've now clicked on and made is I took my original 2 cuts here, 2 cuts here, and I've turned them into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 total cuts through the use of mirrors. So this is the beginning of the top. The last thing we have to do is we have to put some holes in this. So let's take a look at this drawing right here. And you'll see that this hole is right smack in the middle of the part. It's exactly 2 inches up of the 4, and it's exactly 3 inches over of the 6. My spacing on these two goes from 1.5 inches here to 3 inches. So it's 1.5 inches between my left and my right. And then it goes from 3 inches to 4.5 inches from my spinner to my right-hand hole. So let's do this and start it by doing another extruded cut on the surface. And I'm going to start out by just choosing a construction line. I'm going to put a center line and drop it right across here. Make it horizontal. Choose the center point, hold my control key down in the origin, and make those coincident. Now if I dimension this at 3 inches, I now have 3 effective points on this line to put my holes. Left, center, and right, all at 1.5 inch spacing. So now let's draw my left hole, my right hole, or my center hole, and my right hole. I can make them all the same size by selecting left, selecting right, or center, selecting right, make them equal. And now I want to apply a dimension. Excuse me. And I want these to be 0.265. There I've got my 3 holes fully dimensioned. Exit my sketch, cut through all, and accept it. There I have my finished part. And I want to save this as my Automata top in my project folder. That's it. Hope it helped. Thanks for watching.